Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft. I'm Natalie and I'm going to take you through a quick card design using Direct Cut. And hi Mags, I'm just going to give it a few moments for everybody to get into the room and then we will continue. So today I'm going to be using this lovely sketchbook collection pad from Pollyanna Pickering. So we've got lots of images to work with. The idea of the pads is that we can create decoupage with them if we want, but I also like to cut into them to create different card layouts. So morning Deb, morning Carol, and Mags is watching on YouTube, so don't be afraid to chat to each other. The comments should ping through onto the main page eventually. Morning Jill. Okay, so I thought that we could go for the badges. So today actually, well yesterday to be exact, marks 1 year of us doing these lockdown streams. So I thought it'd be really nice to do a nice simple birthday card. And I'm just going to keep an extra copy of that same image just in case I decide I'm going to go decoupage with it, like so. Mags, you're welcome to watch on YouTube or you can join us on Facebook. Morning Tony, morning Thea. Hi Mum. But you can watch on YouTube and that's perfectly fine too. All the chat should ping through to the main screen anyway, so you can all see each other's comments. Okay, so I'm going to start with a fresh mat today, so this could be interesting. So it still has its protective cover on, so it shows how new it is. Super duper sticky, sticky, sticky. There's a reason why I wore a cardi today. Go. So I'm just going to lightly detack the top of my mat just because I know I'm going to be using paper, but my other mat is having issues loading, so I thought given that it's a year of streaming it's about time I changed my mat really. So this initial detack you'll pick up with your first clean anyway, but it's just enough just to stop it sticking too much to the paper. So when we want to work with Direct Cut, one of the most important things is positioning the paper on your mat. So I'm going to move my mat over so you can see that top left corner. And I'm actually going to bring it in from that edge and line it up to that first inch guide on my mat. Okay. Now because this is a brand new mat, I'm not going to press it down, but if you have an older mat, you're going to need to probably give it a little bit of a push. Morning Marion. Okay. So then we can drop down the flap on our machine, load our mat, like so. Okay, so I'm going to go to my close cam. I'm going to go to scan, Direct Cut because we want to cut directly out of the piece of paper that's on the mat. And at this point you can choose whether you want to use the machine or if you want to use canvas. So if you want to use the computer to do any work, you can press on that one and it will send that image up to the cloud for you to pull down. If you just want the machine to do it itself, you can just press on this one. So times when I'll use the computer, when I think that I'm not going to get exactly what I want, or if I have something particular in mind that I want to do that I know the machine's probably not going to pick up on. If I want to do things like foiling lettering that's on a image, then I will send it to the computer because it's easier to trace lettering on the computer than it is to do it by machine. And that's just a few of the occasions when we'll go to a computer instead. Morning Tracy and morning Sarah Lou. So to start with, I'm going to use the machine. Now you have two scan modes, so if I click on the little spanner, you have black and white or you have colour. Now they're probably not the best names for them, so if you think about it like this instead, your black and white one is high contrast, so where you can clearly see what you are cutting out as opposed to the background that you're cutting it out from. So it's got a nice defined edge. Then use black and white. If on the other hand you're doing something like our little badger image, then you're going to want to go colour because it's a low contrast between that foreground and background. Okay. So I'm going to go OK and start. Okay. Now it's going to tell you to frame the image, and this way we don't end up picking up all the random bits on our mat if we're using an older mat. So I'm going to bring it in, but I'm just going to take it just past that outside edge because we don't want it to pick up this outside edge and try and cut it, otherwise we could damage our mat. Okay, so I've brought that in. We can go OK. Now it's always interesting to see what it picks up on this first pass. So you can see you've got lots of little bits, so we can use ignore object size to get rid of any small details that we don't want to cut. So by increasing that size, anything equal or smaller than that, those measurements will then get ignored. You'll see they're still there, but they're kind of greyed out and you don't see them as much. Now at the moment we can see that we're actually going to cut into our badger's snout, which we don't necessarily want to do. And meanwhile it's going to cut around the outside of our badger too. So what we can actually do is we can actually go in and edit those shapes individually. So if we go OK, OK again. The other way that we can work with shapes is by going into edit, and we can actually delete on here. And I'll delete that one too. Okay, so at this point you can see it's picked up kind of a white area that's going to go round our badger's cheek. We might not necessarily want to cut that one out. So I'm going to just pop that one in the bin. And what I really want to concentrate on is that background badger, because we know that he's coming out more or less correct. If it cuts out some extra bits as well, we can just chop those off, because that's why we have an extra sheet, so that we can layer up if we need to. Okay. Okay, so at that point, if you wanted to, you could go to cut, and it would cut round the badger, round his snout, and so on and so forth. But what if that's not what you want to do? You do have a few other options. So if we go to this little right hand button here and press that, you can see at the moment he's got this kind of morphing shape, and what that's saying is that's the shape that I traced, and that's what it's going to cut. If we however change that to a circle, you can see it's going to put a circle around that shape. Now be aware that when you're doing this, obviously it's going to go off that edge, so even though we moved that in that scan edge, it's still going to go off. Okay, maybe that's not what we want, maybe we'll go square. So again, it's a bit close on the edge, but that might be okay. But then we're going to cut into the poor badger's side there. We could go round those corners. That's going to go bigger, so it's definitely off our paper just there. Hopefully you can see that quite clearly. Or we can put a decorative edge on it if we want. And sometimes those decorative edges actually give us just enough to kind of complete that little edge that it hasn't quite picked up. So don't rule them out of hand. We can do hexagons. Again, that's going to be much bigger than the image that is scanned. And you've even got a little fancy frame if you want it. I'm going to be boring. I'm just going to go for a square, I think. I'm going to go OK. And we can even do things like offset. So where it's a bit close to this edge, I can even bring that in a bit. So if I go down, it's going to offset inwards. So we know we're taking it away from this edge here. Okay. We can go OK at this point. And it's going to apply that square. So because this is relatively thin paper, I'm going to use my vinyl blade. But if you're using your standard auto blade because you don't have the vinyl blade, then do drop your pressure right down to -9, and that will help not to tear your paper. So I'm going to go to cut. And we can see my pressure is on -5 because I'm using the vinyl blade. My speed is 1. And off it goes. Okay, so there's our first little bit of our cut done, and I'm thinking it would be really nice if we actually did like a foil, not necessarily a foiled edge, but we could do like a border to that to make that really pop up. So if we go OK, so we've still got our shape on our mat, although interestingly, thank you, there we go. We'll go back so that we've got our shape on our mat. I'm going to pop my vinyl blade to one side for a moment. Pop into my tray. I'm going to get my universal pen holder. And let's go for a nice gold pen. Tell you what, let's break out and use it. There we go. So let's bring my Scribblicious in. Sorry, I can't come out and play today, I'm streaming. I always get the wrong one with these. Yes, you have best part of 600 videos to catch up on. So you can watch on Facebook, on our main Planner Craft page for the most part, which I'm sure Tracy will pop up a link to shortly. And they're also all now available on our YouTube channel. So whichever you would like to do. So I'm going to take the lid off my Scribblicious pen, and I'm using the 3D Fun Prints Universal Pen Holder. You can see mine's got a bit mucky, but it doesn't hurt. So I'm just going to push that in, press it down, tighten it up. So I'm just using a bit of gentle pressure just to keep that nib into the guide. So the guide is there so that it knows where the paper's going to be. Once it's finger tight, if you do a little waggle, you should hear, if I hold up to my mic, like a little grating sound when you just do that. I would help if I change the camera. Oh, nutty. There we go. I'll show that again. Just because, for those of you that are new. So this is the 3D Fun Prints Universal Pen Holder. I've just taken the cap off my pen, pop it in, and give it a gentle press against this end. And as you tighten, I'm just keeping a finger on top, just so it doesn't ping back out. Okay. Now, as I was saying, if you're doing that, you should get that kind of... Hi, Tony! Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to go to the offset again. And you can see it's still got our original offset distance in. I'm going to take it down a little bit more. If it's going to behave. I think it's going to misbehave. Let's go back there. It's having a right hissy fit. There we go. So I'm just going to take these bits back out. It's unusual that it doesn't remember, but if it does, know that you can always get back to that trace screen and go from there. And because we're going round in a square, it doesn't matter about the shape. So I'm going to go back down to my square, back to offset. Now our cut line was minus 3.75. Yeah, the Carl's Universal Pen Holder is absolutely fab because it can take things like the triangular barrel, the Stella Triplus, it can take the Stabilo hexagonal pens. There's very few things that we've found that you can't use it in. It tends to be clips that get in the way. Okay, so I'm going to take that down. So we're going past the minus 3.75 because that's where our cut line is, and we're going to bring that slightly inside so that we can have that on our front panel. Oh yes, definitely pencils. So I quite like popping in a Derwent watercolour pencil when I'm using it for like a reference image. Because then if you put like a blue or yellow in, when you come to do your actual watercolour, it just fades away. Okay. So at this point we're going to go to draw. And you can see that our line has turned blue. And we're going to go to our settings. So at the moment the draw speed is on 1 and the pressure is at -2, which is probably just about right for this gel pen. We'll go OK and let it go. So it's going to come up with saying attach appropriate holder, and that's just because it's Carl's Universal Pen Holder rather than the Brother one. Just go OK and start. And I forgot Ian did scanning at the weekend. There we go. Okay, start, and off it pops. I'm going to do that a couple more times because it's a bit subtle on that background. So what we can do, go OK and draw. Start again. OK. Go. I think once more. You can see that there's hints of it, but it doesn't go consistent. Let's give it a little scribble. Just check it's going. So I have a little bit of scrap paper that I tend to use for blotting and testing. Okay, so your two lines go to the back, I should have said. Sorry. There we go. Wiggle, wiggle, and get it in. Okay, and we can see it's done it again, so I'm just going to go back just to bring that line back in. It's obviously having an off day today. Or maybe a glitch in an update. Yep, we had a lovely lesson that we did with Amanda, so it was really good. So it was a kind of working weekend this weekend. Next weekend we won't be available though, at all. So now, metal spatulas, really important, especially when we're working with paper. And I'm just going to slide that under the edge. Now obviously because this is a new mat, you're going to want to go really careful about how you take this off, because if you try and just whip it off, you have the potential of having it stuck to your mat, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to gently lift it from one edge and just take your time. There's no rush. There we go. Especially when we get onto these little flying bits around here. So I'm going to start to go around this edge like so. Around this edge like so. Nice and slowly. And around the top edge. Like that. There we go. And we can then gently lift that off. So as this is a brand new mat, take your time and you'll get it off in one piece. Now you especially want to go careful with this one. Okay. There we go. So there's our little badgers. And if we look really closely, you can just see, if I can get it to focus, that little gold outline around the edge. You can't see, okay. There we go. Do it really gentle to get it off, and then you won't damage or crease your corners. So usually what happens if you use like the Brother one, it can catch and curl on this corner here. But because we've used the metal one, you keep it nice and sharp. Okay. Yep, the little camera will go off in a minute. Just as soon as I get all my pieces cut. So let's go for a piece of nice bright lime green. So this is from Hint of a Hoot in Teal. Like so. I'm just going to make sure I've got enough space on my paper to do a mat, which looks like I do. I can use the guides on my mat to roughly measure how big a square I want, and I think I'm going to go for a 90 by 90. I'm going to go OK. Back home to reset. So that's going to take everything off our mat. Pattern to the square, and we're going to take that down to 90. Okay, you're going to go set, and I'm going to do a background scan because we've got a big hole in our paper, and it's always a good idea to check. I do that all the time, Pat, so don't worry. And when I catch myself doing it, I'm like, you ninny. Oh dear, was Lily keeping you up last night, Carol, by any chance? I missed the part of the conversation. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly zoom in so I can check the very tip of that square. So to do that, go to Edit, to the magnifying glass, and we can zoom right into 400%. We can use our scroll buttons to zoom down, and we can see that that's fine there, so we can go for it. Okay, going to pop my vinyl blade into my machine, go OK, OK, and cut. And let that go. Okay, so it hasn't quite got through, so that's okay. Stick it back down, send it around one more time. So you can see, don't waste anything. So we can still use that piece for backing sentiments and things like that. So pop that on there. We can then mat there our little badges on there and on top of our original image. So remember, we're keeping this piece spare just in case we need to use it. But I think with that I'm quite happy. Now I'm looking at this and we're thinking it would be quite nice to put like a little band or something that it could sit on. So if I, first of all, let's find if I have some nice paper that we can use as a ribbon. So we've got that one, which might pull out some of the colours. So that's a possible. And I've got really organised with my offcuts as well, so I'm not having to keep going into fresh card. And I've grouped them into projects, which seemed like a good way to go. And I think that's probably the best match for what we have in our offcuts. So let's work with that. So I'm going to bring in my piece of paper. And let's see if I can angle my camera a bit better so you can see where I'm going to be positioning. Let's go to that one. There we go. So you can see more of what I'm doing and less of what the computer's doing. I'm going to pop that onto there. So again, I've gone in that inch so that I can use as much of that card as possible. Oh, you're not a weirdo, Carol. You're not. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to switch back to the other view so you can see a little bit closer at what I'm doing. And I'm going to reset everything. I'm going to go to pattern, and in patterns we have borders. And I think I'm going to go for a nice wavy line, I think, or that one. Decisions. Let's scroll down in case there's something else that leaps out at me. Let's try the decal. So at the moment our board is coming quite big, so it's 3 centimeters high by virtually the width of the mat, and obviously that's way too big for our little card, so I'm going to bring that right down, and I'm going to focus really on what that height is. So 1.8 is just under 2 centimeters. So if we look at our guide on our mat, because that's generally what I do, is judge it by on the mat. You can see that's still quite big. I want it to be more in the region of 1. The time does fly. The time does fly. I often look at pictures of the kids when they're little and it's like, can I go back there? Please. And it wasn't even that long ago, really. It's scary how not that long ago it was. When you think about it, 5 years passes in a flash. So I'm going to take that down a bit more to 1 centimetre tall. So we've then got a width of 94. So you want to check the width of your piece of paper. So I do that against my mat. You can use a ruler, and we can see that's not going to be quite long enough. So what you want to do is we're going to pop our number up to 2. So that means it's going to put 2 copies of that shape on the mat. We're going to add that onto our mat. And at the moment, we don't need that scan, so we can hide it away by pressing off. So we can see our mat a little clearer. Now obviously our 2 shapes have a decal edge, so we haven't got to worry as much about doing a repeat. But if your border has a repeat on it, then you're going to want to kind of bring it back to that point where the repeat overlaps. So we're going to go to edit, the little 4-way arrow tool, then we can use our arrow keys to nudge over the top. So with our decal, it's quite easy to just do a slight overlap and weld it. If on the other hand you have a pattern, you can go to your zoom tool, you can zoom in more, and then you can use these keys up here to actually move your shape, like so. Okay, I'm going to go to the multi-select and select everything. So that's going to select both pieces on our mat. I'm going to go OK. I'm going to go to Object Edit, and we're going to weld it, so this one in the middle here, and that's going to put it all into one strip. And it's at this point it's saying to you to check, because you can't just undo it. I'm going to go OK, OK again, OK again, and at this point we can do our background scan so that we can position it over our paper. I'm going to move my shape so it's on the edge, but not quite on the edge. So I always try to never cut directly on the edge of my paper, just because if there's any slight intolerance between the blade and where the design thinks it is, then you could damage your mat. Okay, let's go OK, and we're going to cut that one out. Let's go back to the little one so you can see it a bit better. And apologies for the fact that you can see the arm just there. Ian will be coming in and swinging the camera around. Okay, so let's see how that's cut. Just going to gently deft that off. There we go. So when we've cut our border, I've cut it longer than what I actually need so that I can trim it accordingly. And I suppose the last thing to do is if we need a sentiment or not. So let's zoom back in. In actual fact, let's go to the other one. If I go, come on. There we go. iPad misbehaving. So again, I'm going to reset everything. Go back to pattern. Go into sentiments. And a word, and we can decide which one of those that we want to do. So let's go for that celebrate. And we only want it reasonably small. So I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to go for it to be about 7 centimetres, so we're taking it right the way down width-wise. Now when we're doing that, it's important that we don't try and cut it, especially where we've gone so low, because you could actually end up with something that isn't going to be cuttable at this point. So I'm going to go set. Okay, so we can see it's on our mat, and if I bring that into the middle, I'm going to turn off my scan just for now, and let's grab a little bit of white card, or maybe cream. Cream could look really nice. There we go, we'll go cream. So now I'm going to do a background scan now that I've put my paper on. And there we go. So let's go, should we go green? And I'll pull out the Brother Universal pen holder too, so you can see that one in use. And let's pop you back up that way. Okay, so your Brother Universal guide pen holder has two parts, the guide and the holder. So the holder slots into your guide, then you just need a pen, and let's go for, got this nice green Sarasa, and they come with a little dot on the end that just stops all the ink leaking, so you can just take that off. I'm going to pop that gently into my holder, make sure that your little notch bits at the front so that it's in the open position. Pop it in, make sure that your nib is against that bottom guide, lift up, twist it round and let go. Okay, now at this point give it a very gentle tug, just to make sure that it's not going to just pop out. Okay, take my blade out for a moment, and with the Brother one we have this little arch here that's going to go to the back of the carriage. So if I pop that in up there, you can just see that. So there's our little arch, and into our holder, and gently close that seal. So I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to go to draw, and it's going to turn blue, and let's go for it. It's gone very quiet on the chat out there. So while that's drawing away, what I will remind everyone is this is the last week to enter our birthday card challenge. So there is an album up on the group to pop in your birthday card, and you never know who might be lucky enough to get one of our limited edition universal pen holder sets. So you can use any of the projects that we've done in the past year to create a birthday card, or go completely different. In terms of, we've had questions about, can it be just digital? Yes, it can. You can pop a photograph if you make a physical card, or if you do a digital card, you can take a screenshot if you want to. Okay, so there's our celebrate. Now that I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that would actually be really nice if we filled it in. Should we try it out? Let's go for it. So I'm going to go OK. I'm going to go back, go into Edit, Object Edit, go into Fill, turn it on. You have Fill Pattern, which is where we can actually put some stripes and things in. Be aware that if you use these bottom two options, they can cause your machine to go slightly out of calibration, so you may need to recalibrate after you've used them. So I think I'm going to go for, let's go for this one for a change. Go OK. We can set the direction that fill goes in. So if I change that to 45, and you'll be able to see this much easier than if I do a solid fill. So that's going to turn it on the diagonal. And you have fill line spacing, so that's how much space there is between each line, and at the moment you can see there's 4.8 mil. So that's quite a big gap, so you should really be able to see that diamond running through your lettering. If you want to take it down a smidge, however, I think I'm going to take that down to about 3. So you see, you can really do some fine alteration. So when we're using our solid fill, for instance, you're going to want to set that to the width of the line that your pen draws, so you get a nice smooth fill. And I'm going to go OK. And you'll see that you've got like a little hatched line through your text. So if I go close cam, you can just about see it. It's a little bit out of focus. So let's see if I can get it to go in focus. Come on. No, you're not having it today, are you? So I'm going to go OK, OK, OK. I can go back to draw and get it to do it again. So let's go. Oh, that one. So over the weekend I popped up a few polls on the group, and even this morning I popped up one about different things that we could do going forward. So if there's a particular software that we haven't covered yet that you would like us to look at, then just let us know, pop it in the poll, and let's see how many people want to see that. So I've put up about Procreate, which I think would be a good one for us to do. Camera's definitely having a man day. It's having there's no Ian day. In terms of Ian's head, I think it's still bothering him a little. He hasn't said as such, but you know, you can just tell. And even mine's kind of niggling, so I'd really like it to just go away. But looking forward to next weekend and taking some time out and recovering from the book properly. So cameras better behave, I've got some filming to do later. So the pen that I'm using is a Zebra Sarasa clip. It's one of the new versions of it, which is quick drying, so hence we can just use draw rather than going to using the foiling setting for slow drying pens. This particular one's from a kit that we have available on our Amazon store. Okay, there we go. So we now have our little trellis effect to our text. So if I zoom in a bit more, so you can see that, like so. Try not to go too low. The other day I did that, I still had the mount in my hand. It was not attached to the desk. Okay. So to unmount the pen, you just lift and twist it back to that centre spot. Oh, there we go. Try and get it in the right place. There. And very gently just pull it back out. So don't try and tug on it, because it's got this comfort grip on here. You'll find that it really grips inside your holder. So if you just do it really gently, it will get out without breaking it. Whereas if you try and do a sharp tug, you risk snapping your holder. And that's an expensive mistake to make. Okay, so we've done our text, and now we've got to decide whether we just want to put a offset around it, which is going to help keep some strength in these really fine bits. We could put a shape around it and have it like a little panel. I think for this one though, the offset is probably the better way to go. So if we go OK, and then back, edit, object edit. I'm going to turn the fill off so it's not distracting. Okay. Go to our offset button, which is this one with two circles and a little measurement in and out. And again, positive numbers are going to go outwards and negative numbers are going to go inwards. So we want to go outwards. And you want to pay attention to the gaps in between. So where you've got this line here, you can see it's literally going to try and cut the same place. So your option is either to take the amount of offset down so that you're widening that gap, or increase it so that it actually joins up. So I think with that one, I'm going to take it down a little. Then you can see it's going to start to bring in elements like the centres of our B, our A and our E's, which can be an issue. So let's go up instead. A little bit more, there we go, so that we're going around the outside. There's a little bit just on that E, so one more notch should do it. There. So now we're going to have it going round here, and you've still got a little bit on this inside section in there. Now if you wanted to get rid of that, you could use another shape over the top and weld the two, so you just have the outside line cutting. But for now I'll go OK. Now bear in mind you now have both versions on the mat. Go OK, and if we go straight to delete, that's going to take the inside one away. Go OK. And again, I'm going to go for my vinyl blade. So this is only like really thin card. Okay. And cut. And off we go. So if anybody's commenting on a shared version of this video, it may be that you're not seeing a comment go up that you've posted. And that's because it can only see the comments that go up on our actual page, which is Plannercraft and Go Create, or on our YouTube channel, which is just Plannercraft, or on Twitch, which is Nat Ballard, no space. So when we stream, we do go out to all three. And there we go. So again, just going to slide that under there. Gently lift that up. And then we want to get under the text. Hello, Trouble. Are you done? Yeah. Okay. So, very gently. I went for new mat today. I treated myself. I thought as oh yeah, just a tad. But that's why we like them, isn't it? There we go. So there's our little sentiment. So at this point we can remove our mat, pop on our protective sheet, and have a little bit more room to play with. Do you want to say hello to everybody? Means you're hovering. Okay. So when your Artistics is brand new, you can be awfully good and put our protective sheet back on. When they get older, you tend to not be quite so precious with it, but when they're new. Got a little bubble. There we go. Ian does this so much better than I do. Thank you, dear. There we go. Move that out of the way.
My head's not too bad today, Karen. Still niggling, but it's not too bad.
See, look, I knew it was still niggling you, I could tell. Okay. So, looking at sizes, I'm going to go for a nice craft card. Like so. Thank you. Okay. Now I'm just wondering if we can have I wanted that slightly bigger, but that's okay. I'll go with it. I'm gonna go, so that's gonna go that way. I'm going to fold my pre-scored card blank, increase the fold, just so I make sure that I'm working on the right side. So your card should have a slight leading edge. And let's grab a cream base card. I think that's going to help it pop. And if we go that way around, there we go. So it's a nice bit of little sparkle on that. So that'll be perfect for what I want. Make sure we get it the right way up. Always important with landscape cards. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue. So the glue I'm using is sticks to 3D PVA in a detail applicator bottle. We did have these on our Amazon store at one point, but they've gone out of stock. So just going to position that into the middle, like so. Then we have our border, so you can decide whether you want that to end in line with your white card, in line with your image, or take it all the way out to the outside. So I think for this one I'm going to go all the way to the outside and then let my sentiment go down there. So let's do that on, and then we can trim after. Try and get it level, so I'm going to line up my card onto my mat and then use the grid on my mat as a guide. Oh, there we go, that would help. Yeah, it is a bit of a pain trying to do everything at once, but hey ho. The only other solution is to do it at like 7 o'clock at night, which just, it didn't work for us when we tried it at all. Because we just weren't getting any time to kind of relax and stop using our eyes for a bit. I would say somebody could tink me if I forget, but I have to have a computer on silent anyway, so that I don't have like a echo of my stream, which is a bit of a pain. So I'm just going to pop these up. One in the middle, just to support that middle so it doesn't sag. Then I flick it over and just test it out and just see if I need a bit more, and I think I'm just going to have to do a little bit in the middle sections here. But I didn't want to get to the point where I was like, well actually, no, I'm not going to stream, because that would be kind of sad. Especially after having done it for a year. There we go. Nearly there. I forgot to move the camera in.
Oh.
And you didn't say anything when you came in. She distracted me, that's weird. No, I'd put it on the machine to try and get a better picture of the loading the holder. How are you laughing at packing in the job? Yeah, if only that was an option, but it's not quite yet, is it?
Tracy needs a puzzle to
Yeah, I'll try and think of a way that you could do that, Tracy. Because it would be helpful, because otherwise, I have to try and have eyes in the back of my head.
get carried away, don't you? Bless you.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to see as well. Okay, so let's pop that onto there. So I'm looking mainly at things like the line there, so that I can get that right. The line in the badger, the stems down here, and that's gonna go there. And then our sentiment. I did take out a spare just in case, Ian. Just in case I went, yeah, and went, okay, I'll do decoupage instead. So, if I want my sentiment to go 3D, you need one layer to that top edge, but we're going to need two for that bottom, so that we're allowing for that lip there. So this is definitely going to be one of those, cut it into thinner strips. It's very sticky, this foam tape. And I did clean my scissors at the weekend, and I've already gunked them up. And it's Monday. Oh dear. Gonna be another job for later. After filming. Okay. So, I'm gonna go for this bit down here. Like so. On the top again, to do my two. Just going to grab my scissors, and I'm just going to push them underneath and give it a little trim, which is always going to be interesting with sticky scissors. My non-stick scissors have not been very non-stick today. Yeah, there we go. Do the same a bit further along. Huh? Just pulled a load off on the foam tape. There we go, come on. So, nearly there, nearly there. But I was just saying, it doesn't really work, does it, when we try and do it late at night? Right, scissors. Thank you. Same with like weekends and stuff, isn't it? So, yes. Stop trying to pinch my scissors. Okay.
Trying to make them a little less sticky than what you managed to make them.
There we go. And I'll go for that there. And I'm going to offset it to one end. Try and make sure that I slide up that sentiment so that my two layers of foam tape are sitting very definitely on the bottom, and then the one layer at the top. So now it's just a case of just trim off those ends and job done. So I use the other scissors, means Ian's hijacked the other ones. There we go, and that one there. And Ta-da! Can you just switch off the zoom cam for me? Hang on. There we go. Really gets there eventually. So you can have that bit bigger then. Ta-da! So that's today's stream done. Tomorrow I want to do a bit of a Easter project. So if you're interested in decorating for Easter, then that's going to be one for you to join in with. So until then, if you have any questions this afternoon, I will be in and out of the group. But I will be filming, so I may not necessarily get back to you straight away, but I'll try my best. Take care for now, and bye!